The Florida Gators have dropped a bombshell all over the SEC, across college football, announcing that Billy Napier has been fired at the University of Florida after beating Mississippi State and improving Florida to a 3-4 record. But to be honest, this was a long time overdue coaching change for the Florida Gators. The question is, how is this going to impact the Oklahoma Sooners in potentially revamping their roster next season? But also, I believe that this could impact a potential coaching change for Oklahoma as well. So stay tuned for that. Today, we're going to go over transfer portal impact and a potential coaching change that you could see for Oklahoma following the firing of Billy Napier. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like, hit the subscribe button. We are constantly talking Oklahoma football content, Oklahoma recruiting content, and transfer portal content. So make sure you're subscribed. It's completely free, and you're going to be constantly brought up to speed in what we're talking about. Make sure you jump in the comments and let me know what you guys think about Billy Napier being out as the Florida Gators head coach. Obviously, we're going to start with transfer portal possibilities for Oklahoma out of the Florida Gators. There is a lot of them, so bear with me. We're going to break this up into defensive and offensive predictions for Oklahoma. If you want to know about the coaching change, go towards the end of the video. That's where we're going to talk about potential coaching changes for Oklahoma regarding the Florida Gators. And yeah, I definitely think it could happen. I think Oklahoma could look that direction. So talking about transfer portal impact for Oklahoma, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, we've talked about Oklahoma is going to have some needs in the transfer portal. You've had a really good defensive line recruiting cycle. You're going to have another good one in 2027. But obviously, with losing guys like Dominic Williams, Grayson Halton, and guys like that, you're going to have to replace some depth on the interior defensive line. And I think Florida definitely has a couple guys that if you're Oklahoma, you're going to go down there and you're going to take a look at. And so obviously, Oklahoma has been in the mix for some of these guys on the recruiting trail. But, one of the first places that I want to start with on the interior defensive line is a guy by the name of Brendan Bett. He's a 6'5", 308 sophomore out of Gadsden, Alabama. He has this year 12 solo tackles, 1 sack, 25 total tackles. This would definitely be a guy that I could see the Florida Gators not being able to retain this season, and Oklahoma 100% taking a look at if he was to hit the transfer portal, because he would be a guy that could come in and replace a Dominic Williams or a Grayson Halton. And I definitely feel like you got to replace at least one of the two with a transfer portal defensive lineman, somebody that's a little bit more seasoned to put alongside Jaden Jackson and David Stone, because you just want to have a little bit more depth there. Edge rushers, you've got a guy like LJ McCray. This was a guy that Oklahoma offered. He was a top 5 player out of that 2024 recruiting cycle. So Oklahoma wasn't super involved in his recruitment. Like I said, they just kind of made an offer there. It would be really interesting to see if Oklahoma would circle back around on him if he was to hit the portal. I would also look at a guy like Jaden Woods, who's right in Oklahoma's backyard out of Shawnee, Kansas. He's 6'3", 250 pounds. He was a part of that 2025 class. He was a top 100 player. That's a guy that I would 100% be looking at. Linebackers is interesting because if Kip Lewis and some of those guys end up going to the draft, I feel like there could be a need to maybe take one really seasoned guy out of the transfer portal. And I believe there could be a ton of guys out of the transfer portal that Oklahoma could look back at linebacker, especially with what you see going on down there at Clemson. Obviously now with Florida, if you see FSU open up, like there's a ton of really good linebackers across the country. A couple that Oklahoma offered. Ty Jackson out of the 2025 class. He was a top 25 linebacker in that class at 6'2", 225 pounds. You have Miles Graham. This is not going to be an easy pool for Oklahoma, but one that I think, hey, if you have an opportunity to grab him in the transfer portal, pay whatever it takes to get him here. He is that talented. He was the 114th ranked player in that 2024 recruiting cycle. The only problem is you're going to have to beat out schools like Auburn, Georgia. They were pretty heavily invested in his recruitment early. You could look at the secondary and say, hey, Florida's got some talent back there. Cornerback isn't necessarily a place where I feel like you just have to go get somebody, but Florida does have a pretty talented cornerback in, I believe it's Onis Konanbanny. I probably completely butchered that name, but that was a guy that was a top 50 cornerback in the 2025 class. That's somebody that I'd be paying attention to. But on the offensive side of the ball, this is where I think Oklahoma can really probably make the biggest impact, as I think the Florida Gators have a lot of really good offensive linemen. And one of those is a sophomore this year. So he would probably have at least 2 years with you here at Oklahoma. And that's going to be Najee Harris, a 6'3", 315-pound guard. And when you look at pass block grades this year, averages a 71.7, run blocking 61.9, a total offensive grade of 62. The reason why I really look at Florida for some of their offensive linemen is because they are a pretty good run blocking team. They've had a lot of success there, and that's an area where Oklahoma needs to improve a little bit. So I look at a guy like Najee Harris as somebody that, hey, if he was to hit the portal, I 100% think Bill Bedenbaugh and then would be interested. Last year, in a total of 668 snaps, had a run block grade of 72.4 and a pass block grade of 65. And in 2023, in 171 snaps, a 78 run block grade and an 80 pass block grade. So a guy that I think definitely could help Oklahoma massively improve. I think you feel good about your guard positions where you have EPL, but the question is, like, is another school going to try to pull him away again? Because that's already tried to happen twice in the transfer portal. You have Hito Zaida on the left side. So, I guess the question is like, do you expect one of those guys to leave the transfer portal, and do you want to bring in a starter to replace one of them? But a guy like this, I 100% think yes. Like, if you can get him, you bring him in. Tight end is a really interesting position. We're going to get into this here in a second. But a guy like Hayden Hansen, 6'8", 270 pounds, out of Weatherford, Texas. He's a junior right now, probably could use just one more year of really solid college tape to be a higher draft pick. I'd say maybe like a day 5, day 4 draft pick, but pretty decent blocker overall. And he's had some, I wouldn't say significant, but some good production in the receiving game for Florida. This year, 22 receptions, 198 yards, 1 touchdown. Last year, 15 receptions, 207 yards, and 1 touchdown. And 23, 12 receptions for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. So tight end, you could definitely upgrade there. Wide receiver, my gosh, they have wide receivers up and down the board. These are guys that if Oklahoma wants, they're going to have to massively go out and shell out some money. Vernell Brown the third. I don't know if Michael Strudavant has any eligibility left, but a guy like Dallas Wilson would be out there. Eugene Wilson. Those would be massive gets for Oklahoma if they could try to get them at the wide receiver position. The problem is, like I said, they're going to be guys that cost a lot of money. And I just don't know if Oklahoma feels that bad about their wide receiver room to have to go out there and get guys like that. So, although I would love to have them, I just don't know if it makes realistic sense. I think some of you guys are going to ask about DJ Lagway. I don't think it makes sense for Oklahoma to go out there and pay for him, especially with what he's put on tape the past couple of years. And quite honestly, you're going to see Lincoln Riley at USC probably make a massive push for DJ Lagway. Is that somebody that they wanted on the recruiting trail and somebody that I think would fit really well in Lincoln Riley's scheme? Additionally, Clemson probably going to make a big push for him as well. So it just doesn't make sense for Oklahoma there. But to talk about the coaching change for Oklahoma, what could Oklahoma do here off the firing of Billy Napier to make a coaching change? We've talked about coordinators for a while now and how some of them probably don't need to be employed at the University of Oklahoma going into the next season. As harsh as that sounds, Florida has one of the best tight end coaches in the entire country. Russ Galloway, who's currently the Florida Gators tight end coach. He coached, but he's been with the Gators since 2020. When he joined the staff in an off-the-field role. He has experience as an offensive assistant with the NFL's New York Giants and as an offensive analyst for LSU. Prior to Florida, Callaway served as the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at Samford from 2016 to 2019. He's been able to pull in some really good tight ends so far at Florida, and the tight ends there have been somewhat productive. So we've talked about Joe John Finley quite a bit here on this podcast. And, should he be a staffer going into next season? I don't think so. If Oklahoma was to make a change, and I would imagine they're going to this offseason, Russ Callaway is a guy that if I'm Jim Nagy and Brent Venables, I'm picking up the phone and I am making that call and saying, what's it going to take to get you to Norman? Obviously, I think there's some other really good tight end coaches, but with Billy Napier being fired, that staff's going to be overhauled, so he is going to be available. I know a lot of people would like Brian LePack out there at Kansas State. I just don't know if he's going to be available. So Russ Callaway's probably one of your better options right now. So in a later video, we're going to talk about recruiting flips because I think beyond some of the guys that we talk about quite frequently with the Florida Gators, I do think there's some other guys that Oklahoma could go look into. So I'm going to go follow up with some of those guys, get you guys a list compiled there. So make sure you stay tuned for that video. But jump in the comments below and let me know what your guys' thoughts are about the current roster for the Florida Gators. Who would you like to see Oklahoma go out there and grab? And if you're new to the channel, make sure you guys hit that like and hit that subscribe button. We'll see y'all next time.